Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We continue on with our tafsir of the Quran, and we are on Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 25. Allah Jalla wa Ala says, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ كُلَّمَا رُزِقُوا مِنْهَا مِنْ ثَمَرَةٍ رِزْقًا قَالُوا هَذَا الَّذِي رُزِقْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَأُتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. And give Baqarah, glad tidings, to those who have Iman and work righteousness, that theirs will be gardens with flowing rivers. Every time they will be provided with fruit therefrom, they will say, "This is what we were provided with before," and they will be given things in resemblance, and they will have purified wives, and they will abide therein forever. So, some keywords. Iman, we have discussed this before. He says, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and work righteousness. These people will have Jannat. From Jim Noon Noon, Jannah, it has this idea of being covered. It's the same thing with Majnoon, mad or insane, because his intellect is covered. The Jinn, because we cannot see them, they are covered. The world of Jinn is unseen to us. Likewise then Jannah, it is covered. Covered with what exactly? Well, they say covered with rich trees and vegetation. So it's like verdant meadows. It's not some form of empty garden. He says, تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا. Taht means below. So the rivers are not flowing below Jannah, they are flowing on the ground. This is what it intends to say. We find that they will say, whenever they are given fruits, that we were given fruits like these before, meaning yesterday in Jannah. And we say yesterday, quote unquote, there is no today and yesterday, as there is no sunrise and sunset. But the point is, we were given fruits like these before, and they will be given these fruits mutashabiha, meaning the fruits will resemble each other in color and in shape, but they will be different in taste. So that is to say, in Jannah, because the fruits will be different in taste, you will not get bored of them. Jannah is always self-refreshing. As for the purified wives, then they are purified from things which are impure, such as the blood of the menses, and other things which are impure, or otherwise repulsive, because in Jannah there will be total attraction between the spouses, and there will be nothing to make them averse to each other, contrary to what the case is in this world. The spouses may have physical attributes which make them averse to each other. As for the word khalidun, then in this context it means they will be in there forever. Okay, so let's reflect on this ayah. The Quran gives glad tidings to those who are believers, just as it gives warnings to those who are kuffar. And so we see the great balance the Quran strikes. We find the ayah talks about those who believe and work righteousness. Some scholars said from this that righteous actions are not part of Iman, because they are mentioned separately, believe and work righteousness. However, the correct opinion on this matter, when we look at all the available evidence, is that righteous actions are part of Iman, so that your Iman will increase with righteous actions and will decrease with evil actions. So then why are righteous actions mentioned separately alongside Iman? This is to emphasize righteous actions, that is all. Otherwise, righteous actions are part of Iman. In other words, it is impossible to have Iman without righteous actions. This is the correct opinion in accordance with the evidence. We also notice that from the pleasures of Jannah mentioned in this ayah are fruits and wives, because these are two matters in which a person can take delight in. Otherwise, Jannah has many delights, but the most prominent delight would be that of the fruits and that of intimacy with your spouse. Thinking about the reward, one might conclude that this Jannah is a reward for your actions. Yes and no. The point is that there's no Jannah without righteous actions. That is true. However, the reward is worth more than your actions. This is what we need to appreciate. Not even the Prophet himself can work enough righteous actions to earn him Jannah. Jannah is worth more than our actions. This is the main point. We also take from the ayah, the plural of the word Jannah is used, Jannat. So it means that Jannah is not just one monolithic entity. There are various levels of Jannah and various descriptions of the different gardens. As that's what Jannah is. It's a garden with rich trees which cover it. So the Jannah for the Prophet will be far superior to the Jannah of other believers. We also find that in Jannah you will not get bored. We find from the fruits that they will be similar but different in taste. Okay then, what about the wives? Will a person not get bored of his or her spouse? The answer is no. We have from other evidence that even the spouse will increase in their beauty, both the man and the woman, so that Jannah is always self-refreshing. Let's look at ayah number 26. إن الله لا يستحيي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين. Indeed, Allah is not ashamed to set forth a parable even of a mosquito or that which is more extreme. As for those who have Iman, then they know it is the truth from their Rabb. But as for those who disbelieve, they say, what did Allah intend by this parable? By it He misleads many, and He guides many, and He only misleads the fasiqun, the evildoers. Okay, so let's look at some of the key words. He says Allah is not shy. Istihya is to be shy of something. From haya, meaning modesty. Ba'uda is mosquito. He says yudillu from dalala, that is misguidance. And he says yahdi from hidayah. This is to guide someone. Guidance, of course, being of two types. Hidayatul irshad, which is to show somebody the correct way, and the hidayatul tawfiq, which is to put somebody on the correct way. This ayah came down in response to the argument of the mushrikeen. They said that Allah Jalla wa Ala in the Quran gives the parable of a fly, as in Surah Al-Hajj, that if the fly were to steal something of them, they will not be able to retain it. And He also gives the parable of the spider, that the parable of the kuffar is that of a spider's web, and how weak is that. So their objection was, how is it that Allah Jalla wa Ala is using such lowly creatures for His parables? Should He not be using more honorable type of creatures for His parables? And so in response to this objection, Allah Jalla wa Ala brought down this ayah. Let's reflect on this ayah. We find that Allah Jalla wa Ala sets forth parables, and we've known that from before, but in this ayah He tells us that He sets forth parables, even that of a mosquito. Now a mosquito is a small creature, it is an insignificant creature, it is looked down upon, it is not something honorable like a horse, something valuable and respected. So Allah Jalla wa Ala can set forth parables even using things which are looked down upon, because the parable itself is not the intended aim. The aim is to make people understand the truth. Now whatever parable you need to use, you will use, because the parable is the means to the end, not the end itself. And in this ayah, reflecting on it, we find the great difference between the Muslim and the Kafir. The Muslim will understand the parable because he has an open heart and an open mind to the truth. even if the parable has something despised like a mosquito. Yet the kafir, who has a closed mind and a closed heart to the truth, will not understand the parable. He'll be focused more on the mosquito rather than the actual lesson being conveyed from the parable. And this is what happens when your heart is sealed and you do not make tadabbur of the Quran. You will not be benefited from the parables. It is possible for us to take that Allah can feel shy and that this is one of His characteristics. And the way we can justify it is because if Allah does not feel shy to set forth a parable of a mosquito, then it would suggest to us that in other matters He would feel shy. That's a rational way of looking at it. Otherwise, if somebody does not feel convinced from the rational argument, then it is worth pointing out that we do have positive evidence that Allah does feel shy, as in the hadith that Allah feels shy when a servant raises his hands making dua to Allah, that Allah should return his hands empty. So there are certain states in which Allah Jalla wa Ala does feel shy, and this shyness is a shyness which befits Allah Jalla wa Ala. We also find the virtue of Iman in that it enables you to recognize the truth and recognize falsehood intuitively. So such people will know that the revelation is the truth from their Rabb. We find that people who have no Iman or even deficient Iman will make i'tirab or objections to the ruling of Allah Jalla wa Ala. So for example, you might find them saying things like, how come eating camel meat breaks the wudu, but eating pig, if you're allowed to eat pig in a necessity, does not break the wudu, where camel meat is halal and the pig meat is originally haram? So if they ask questions like these, where the ruling is clear-cut for us, but they're still asking these questions, then this is i'tirab. It means that these people are not satisfied with the text of the deen. And those who are not satisfied with the text of the deen either have no Iman or they have deficient Iman. We also find the lesson that these parables that Allah Jalla wa Ala sets forth in the Quran serve two purposes: to guide those who believe and to increase them in their guidance, and secondly, to misguide those who are antagonistic and recalcitrant to Allah Jalla wa Ala. However, He tells us He only ever misguides the fasiqun, those who are rebellious. So fasaqa means to exit or come out. Originally, this is the meaning. And in this context, it means those who exit the fold of obedience to Allah. This is the fasiq. So only such people will be misguided. In other words, those who deserve misguidance will be misguided. So Allah Jalla wa Ala misguides. This is one of His characteristics. However, it's a restricted characteristic. He misguides those who deserve it, just like He mocks those who deserve it, or He plots and plans against those who deserve it. These are restricted characteristics. We find He guides many using the parables and He misguides many. The word kathir is used. However, this does not mean that those misguided are equal to those who are guided in their number. Rather, we know from other evidence that those who are misguided are far, far more than those who are guided. Also, we find that Allah actively misguides people, and this is in contradiction to the aqidah of the Qadariyah, who say that Allah Jalla wa Ala does not guide or misguide. Man makes his own guidance and misguidance, and therefore man is responsible for his own actions, and Allah does not misguide anyone. And this ayah is an evidence against them. Let's take ayah number 27. الذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Those who break Allah's covenant after ratifying it and sever what Allah has ordered to be joined and do mischief on earth, it is they who are the losers. In the previous ayah, Allah Jalla wa Ala ended with the word fasiqun, and in this ayah He explains some of the characteristics of the fasiqun. So as for the naqd of the ahad, naqd means to undo something, and in this context it means to break the ahad, which is a contract. Okay, so we know what ahad means. It means contract, but what does the word actually refer to? What contract? And this is a contract which we have with Allah Jalla wa Ala, that we will have iman in Allah and the messengers and obey Allah Jalla wa Ala, and in return from Allah's side that He will enter us into Jannah. This is the contract between us and Allah Jalla wa Ala. This contract has been ratified in our fitrah. Every child is born upon Tawheed. So kufr is not the status quo, iman is. As for cutting off what Allah has ordered to be joined, again we know what the words mean, but we have no idea what they refer to. So the tafsir tells us that this refers to things like joining ties of kinship, and other than that, it's general. So for example, the belief in the messengers. You join the messengers in their belief. You believe in all of them, as opposed to the Yahud and Nasara. What about the books? You join all the books in one category and believe in all of them, as opposed to the Yahud and Nasara. They do not join in this belief. Rather, they do the opposite. They separate. They separate between the messengers and between the scriptures. As for the fasad on the earth, then this is primarily by way of kufr, but also other sins and physical destruction of life and wealth and other property as well. All of this is fasad, but primarily the biggest fasad is kufr, and such people of course are the losers. So let's reflect on this ayah. We may take, reflecting on the ayah, some of the characteristics of the fasiqun as mentioned in the ayah. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list of characteristics, but it is sufficient to know who the fasiq is. We take from this ayah that we have a covenant with Allah Jalla wa Ala, and we need to fulfill our part, and Allah Jalla wa Ala will fulfill His. This is the precise reason why Allah Jalla wa Ala has created us. We can also take that kufr leads to corruption on the land. As in other ayat of the Quran, we learn that corruption has appeared on the land and the sea because of what the hands of man have earned. And even if there are righteous people amongst us, but they do not prevent the evil ones from spreading their corruption in terms of kufr and evil deeds, then we all suffer the loss. And so from this, we find the importance of enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. We also find this style of speech. He says, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. They are the losers, meaning they alone are the losers. Wallahu a'lam.